Unsolved.
The Zodiac killer case, Leigh Allen and Don Cheney. All right, everybody, we're looking at Northern California, the San Francisco Bay Area. And Arthur Leigh Allen lived in Vallejo, right there, in that house. And then he had a trailer in Santa Rosa later in his life. And then Don Cheney, in the late 1960s, lived in Concord. Okay, and now as we travel south, mainly on the 101, we come to the place where Arthur Leigh Allen went to college in San Luis Obispo. And then above that, at Atascadero, is where Arthur Leigh Allen started teaching elementary school. And then above that is San Miguel, a very small little town where Arthur kept a trailer. And then as we travel south, we pass Lompoc. We come to Southern California. And in Southern California, that's where Arthur Leigh Allen's younger brother, Ronald, went to college in Pomona. And then this is also where Sherry Jo Bates was murdered in Riverside. And this is where Ron Allen got married in San Marino. Now, when Leigh Allen was a young man in high school and college, he excelled at swimming and diving. And right here from the newspaper, you can see how well he did. He was first place, and here he received the All-American Award in 1952 on a swimming team. But he was an excellent diver. Now, Leigh Allen started his college career at the junior college in Vallejo, and then he moved around 1954 to Central California, the coast, and went to Cal State San Luis Obispo. And then at some point he stopped attending there, enlisted in the Navy, and then after leaving the Navy he returned to San Luis Obispo and earned his degree. And then he started teaching elementary school. In 1962, Leigh Allen visited his younger brother, who was roommates with Sandy and Don Cheney. And this is where he met Don Cheney. Now, in 1959, without having a teaching credential, Arthur Leigh Allen was hired to teach at Santa Rosa Elementary, and this is where he met the Seawater family. Now, in a future episode, I will talk about the Seawaters and their allegations against Leigh Allen. But what's interesting is, after he finished his employment with Santa Rosa Elementary, he maintained a trailer down there in that little city, San Miguel. And he lived in Vallejo. And he obtained another teaching job at Travis Elementary School on the Travis Air Force Base. And he taught there a year, and then he lost that job either because he had a gun in his car or he had a motorcycle accident that severely injured his leg, and so he had to quit. And then the funny part is, at this point, he earned his teaching credential. But it took him a year or two before he could get another job. And he got hired at Valley Springs Elementary School in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And after 2 years of teaching there, he was accused, or he was caught, molesting one of his students. And so the principal demanded his resignation from the job and reported him to the state, and Arthur Leigh Allen lost his teaching credential. Now, during his first year teaching at Valley Springs, on October 30th, 1966, Sherry Jo Bates was murdered in Riverside in Southern California. And according to this, 1 month after the homicide, letters were received at the press and our department written by the suspect of our homicide. The suspect used a black felt pen to address the envelopes and had used uppercase print. The confession letter was typed. There are numerous errors in spelling, punctuation, etc., as you will notice. The person who wrote the confession letter is aware of the facts about the homicide that only the killer would know. The killer mailed this letter from a secluded rural mailbox, unstamped. So is there a way to prove that Arthur Leigh Allen was in Southern California when the confession letter was mailed from that rural post office? Well, there is. Because Leigh Allen was best man at his brother's wedding. And his brother was married on November 26th, and the confession letter was mailed on November 29th. So it's very likely that Leigh Allen stayed in Southern California when the typed letter was mailed. So here's a typed letter that Leigh Allen mailed to Valley Springs. And then here's a letter that he mailed to the superintendent about getting credit for his units at college. And here's his resignation letter. And so I thought we would compare the type from his letters to the type of the confession letter. So I compared the letters B, E, and P. So in this letter on the bottom, you can compare the P, the O, the B, and the M, and the D, and the R to the confession letter and see if they look the same. And again, here's the resignation letter, and you can compare different letters. You could pause the video if you need more time to look at them. Now there's also this card that came from a concerned citizen in Vallejo about the Vallejo murders. And maybe this is from Arthur Leigh Allen, and maybe it shows that he's the Zodiac killer. So let's compare the type on these. So here we have both capital and lowercase letters, and we can look at certain words also, like the, and compare them. and you can compare the little t, and they look similar to me. And so it's possible Arthur Lee Allen typed this up and claimed to be a concerned citizen. Now, around 1965 is when Don Cheney reconnected with Leigh Allen. Don Cheney obtained a job near San Francisco, and he moved to San Francisco, and he lived there about a year. And then he moved to Concord, California, south of Vallejo. In December of 1967, Allen was given a Zodiac brand watch as a Christmas present from his mother. The company symbol for their Zodiac watches is exactly the same symbol as later adapted by the Zodiac Killer. This watch was taken during the service of a search warrant in February of 1991. In January 1968, Allen had a conversation with Donald Cheney, a friend of his. Allen guised this conversation as though he was going to write a novel. Allen indicated to Cheney that he would call himself Zodiac and use the Zodiac watch symbol as his symbol. That he would kill people in lovers' lanes by using a weapon with a flashlight attached to it for sighting at night, that he would write letters to the police to confuse them and taunt them and sign them as the Zodiac, using the Zodiac watch symbol. Allen stated he would get women to stop on the freeway, indicating they had some problems with their tires, and that he would loosen the lug nuts so their tire would later fall off, and he could take them captive. Allen told Cheney that he would shoot children coming off a bus. A preview of next week's episode, we'll take a look at Arthur Lee Allen's for his teaching position at Valley Springs. Well, this ends this episode of Unsolved, and I'll see you next weekend.